Hello, BookTube. All right, we have yet another change of location because we're continuing with our library tour. Don't ask me why. But we finished up with the biography wall. It's an entire wall of this little room. And now we're moving on. I thought I would just go around the room rather than pick and choose, because if I pick and choose, I'm going to steer away from things that scare me. So we do around the room. We will eventually get to the deepest, darkest depths of Mordor, and I'll be forced to deal with it. But the thing I like about this particular library tour, I remember it from the last time I did a library tour, is that it really helps me to organize my library. It really does. And I'm hoping that that just continues all throughout, because right now we're dealing with the next wall of the room. Underneath a painting by Wyeth called The Master Bedroom, of a dog asleep on a master bed while everybody's gone from the house. And underneath that painting there is a fireplace. It's filled in. It hasn't been used in probably 70 years. But it has an old-fashioned mantelpiece. And then I put two bookcases underneath it. Underneath the mantelpiece, in front of the filled-in fireplace. And those bookcases are a mess. They're a mess. Like so many bookcases in this front room, I have just been mindlessly accumulating books on them forever. that has to stop. This library tour will help with that. But before we get to those, I thought we should do the mantelpiece. It actually required a little bit of logistical setup, which I never do, because I have all sorts of stuff here, and that in itself is a problem. So, so we're going to start with the books on the mantelpiece, and I don't know how successful that's going to be because it's kind of ramshackle. We'll just go from all the booktuber problems that I have with other people suddenly surfacing myself. The gigantic sepulchral swallows, the dry throat, which you could fix ahead of time. Didn't see any of it coming, but we're going to start with the left and just move forward, and we'll see how far we go. And a lot of the books that are on this mantelpiece are boxes. I don't know why. I guess just because a box set or two box sets works as a really good bookend instead of a bookend, which takes up space where a book could go. So, no, the very first thing. The very first book is not a box. It's not even a real proper book. It's this. It's my little black book. Are you in my little black book? This is my list of addresses for people to send books to. so that's the very first thing. That's why I come over here. I don't have a desk in this room anymore. I don't have a workstation. And when you're making packages up for mailing and you're putting labels on them and you're taping them up and whatnot, that's a little ungainly to do when you're sprawled on a couch. So you still have to be sort of in a work posture to do that. And I don't have a work posture place anywhere in this house anymore. Because I don't do that. Other than mailing, I don't do anything that requires a typical old school work posture. So I have just sort of informally started doing that sort of thing, standing up on the tops of these bookcases, which is in itself a bad idea. Because the tops of bookcases are for books, not for mailing equipment. It tells me that I have a little bit more reorganizing to do, maybe a lot more. But now we'll move on with the boxes. We've got a bunch of boxes to go through all in a row. The first one is from Pushkin Press, I believe this is. Yes, this is something of theirs called In Search of Venice, which is 5 really nicely made, 6 really nicely made volumes of just, let me show you how beautiful these things are, of just little books that people have written about Venice. There's one. There's Loving Venice by Peter Krall, and so on and so forth. The design, the books have a matte finish, a solid binding, and the design all throughout is just lovely. So I reviewed it. I reviewed the book, or the whole package, and then kept it because, as some of you will know, and those of you who are new to the channel will not, I love Venice. I lived there for a while, and I dearly miss it. It's hard for me to believe I will never see it again. And it's also hard for me to believe, it's hard for me to really swallow that the grandchildren of friends of mine will never see it at all, that it won't be inhabitable when they're my age. That's even worse. But then we move from Pushkin to Library of America. The next batch is Library of America, these boxes. The first one being Lauren Isley. I love the Library of America. They're a reprint organization here in America designed to find and memorialize forever great works of American literature. They're an ongoing thing. They have a whole wall of books now, individual books and box sets, all of them done on archival non-acidic paper. They all have built-in bookmarks. They all have sewn binding, so that they're made to take a beating. They're made to last forever. And I know this for a fact because some of my Library of America volumes, none of which you will see today, these are all new, but some of my Library of America volumes really have stood up to punishment. But this one is Lauren Isley. This is look at what the great job they do in there. There's Archaeopteryx, and there's a nebula. This is the great naturalist Lauren Isley. These are beautiful, just beautiful writings. And I have had Lauren Isley, like everybody else that knows about him. I've had him in little mass market paperbacks, the occasional trade paperback, but this, to have all of his major works in one beautifully designed box set, look at that. Look at that. We don't know exactly which Murphy brother that is, but it's got to be one of them. You can tell by the occipital region that it's got to be one of them. So Lauren Isley first, then we go a drastic change in tone from Lauren Isley. This is Norman Mailer. This is the 60s, and this is let's see here, what do we got here? This is again really well designed. We got the peace sign on there, but this has volume 1 has An American Dream, Why Are We in Vietnam, The Armies of the Night, and Miami and the Siege of Chicago. And then in the middle of the box are reviews and commentary and stuff like that, which is what I do. I stick reviews of these things in the middle, in the space between them, just rather than keep them in a file anywhere, because the file will never be consulted. And then the second volume of this is collected essays from the 1960s, and some of those I had not read in 40 years. So not the world's biggest fan of Norman Mailer, but he comes off really well in this collection. Okay, then we have someone I am a big fan of. I was very happy to see this. This also has a review wedged in the middle. These are the Hainish novels of Ursula Le Guin. This is the Library of America volume of Ursula Le Guin, which has just a ton of fiction of hers, so you can just binge. You can just, if you want, you can just binge on her fiction. I would hope, since Library of America obviously made a deal with her literary estate, she had only had a month or two left to live when this came out, and the number of writers who are alive when their Library of America volume comes out is fairly small. And usually, I think, entails wheeling and dealing with literary estates behind the scenes. And I'm hoping that if that is the case, that this betokens another box set of Ursula Le Guin. That would be great. Another box set would be great. But this has The Left Hand of Darkness and The Dispossessed, her two gigantic masterpieces. I would love to see her non-Hainish books collected. And I would love to see, for instance, her occasional nonfiction. A whole collection of that. I think it has been collected in just a normal volume, but to have it as one of in a pretty Library of America volume, well, that would be wonderful. Okay, talk about a pretty Library of America volume. Here's another perfect example. This is something I caterwauled with happiness when I learned that they were going to do this. This is the Diaries of John Quincy Adams, who was, those of you who are maybe not up on your American history, he was an American president, and he was the son of an American president. The first time that ever happened, he was the son of John Adams. And he was also the most intelligent person who's ever been president of the United States. And the whole of his life, he lived a long time. And after he was president, he went back to Congress and served for a long time. And the whole time that he did that, the whole time that he was swimming in the Potomac and eating half apples and whatnot, the whole time that he was making law and making friends and making enemies and going to dinners and whatnot, he was keeping a journal. And I had it once upon a time, many apartments ago. I had it in like 9 or 10 big hardcover volumes from the turn of the 20th century, and loved paging through it, loved dipping down into it. I thought and often went on record as saying that it was one of the more amazing American documents that had ever been made by anybody. And then Library of America announced that they were going to do it. And that's this. So you have the old John Quincy Adams and the young John Quincy Adams. And I've got, once again, reviews in the middle. I was very happy. I was very happy that this existed. I think, if memory serves me correctly, I think that I wrote a review of it. I think I wrote a review of a few of these things. I will again try to remember. I always forget to do that, but I will try to remember it. But if I forget, and you're actually interested in what I wrote about it, in a formal setting for a formal review, you can just do what I do. I mean, I don't have any special approach to this thing. I've written way too much for there to be a special approach. What I do is just go to Google, type Steve Donahue, and then the title of whatever you're wondering whether or not I've reviewed. You should do that anyway. If you're interested in knowing whether or not I reviewed something, do that anyway for everything. Then this next one, I am a fan. So we go from John Quincy Adams, Ursula Le Guin. I am fans. I am also a fan of this one too, and this is the great Mary McCarthy. Library of America did a volume of hers. This has The Company She Keeps, The Oasis, The Groves of Academe, A Charmed Life, The Group, Birds of America, Cannibals and Missionaries, and a bunch of short stories. And it also has a bunch of reviews in there because I grabbed it. This is once again the young Mary McCarthy on one side and the older Mary McCarthy on the other. And once again, I would love it if this betokened a second box set. There's plenty more. There's plenty more Mary McCarthy to do than just this. This is most of her fiction. I think this leaves out almost nothing of her fiction, of her major fiction anyway. And you all know what I think about that, about the made-up stories. I mean, it's always wonderful to watch a mind like hers at work, even on a fictional canvas. But a 2-volume set of her nonfiction would be delightful, just delightful. Okay, all right. We also go to another person I'm a fan of. This is Rachel Carson. This is Silent Spring and Other Writings, a gorgeous book, just gorgeous. There she is, tirelessly advocating, as was her wont. And I think I reviewed this as well. Loved it. I have had like with Lauren Isley, I've had Rachel Carson in all sorts of different formats, and now I don't have to worry about that. Now I have the book of hers that I can just go back to forever and don't have to worry about it falling apart. Okay. All right. Well, we're sticking with a line of people here that I really like. This is John O'Hara, the indefatigable New Yorker writer John O'Hara. This is Stories of John O'Hara. In this case, I would throw a little bit of criticism in the direction of Library of America because John O'Hara was a great short story writer. I can say that now because he's dead. He was a great short story writer. And this book has, I don't remember. I think it has at most 20? 60. This book has 60 short stories, and I wish that it were a box set with 3 times that many. I don't see a way that you can do it. A book this small of the short stories of John O'Hara, who did precious little else in a long life of writing than write short stories. A book like this, it shouldn't. If it's this size, that means you are totally living inside the creative vision of the editor, as opposed to the editor using his creative vision, but also using common sense as well. With something like this is an editorial statement as opposed to just an editorial decision. And I mean, there's another volume sitting here lengthwise. This is 4 novels of the 1930s of John O'Hara, and they go together, but there's so much more. There is so much more. Like, for instance, 4 novels of the 1930s. Well, what about his later novels? His later novels are fantastic. And what about all the rest of the stories? Or even if not all the rest of the stories, what about, a third more? But I'll take what I can get. I'll take what I can get of John O'Hara in Library of America. Let's see. How are we going to do this? Okay. All right, now we go to someone I'm not a fan of. But I've been waiting for this because it's a nonfiction volume. This is Why Write by the late, I would argue not great at all, Philip Roth. And this is a collection of his nonfiction. Library of America has gone to inordinate lengths to canonize this author, and I think that's a mistake. They've also done it with John Updike. I think that's a mistake. I don't think these people have much in the way of literary talent, and I think that they hogged the limelight from their exact contemporaries who do. But either way, I mainly wanted this because it's Roth's nonfiction. It's his occasional writing about writing and addresses to students and all that sort of thing. It's not the contents when I reread them are not all that remarkable, but more interesting certainly than his onanistic, solipsistic fiction, which just goes on forever and ever. Okay, all right. So the Library of America In addition to reprinting stuff they think will be popular, also just pig-headedly and wonderfully, gloriously reprint stuff that they know is not popular. They will just do it. They will just reprint stuff that they think belongs in their canon, in the canon that they are building. I love that. They take that from the Pleiades, and it's well justified, because it gives the literary world. It's like the New York Review of Books classics line, where you get the very strong sense that this is not demographic driven, that there is a room of really smart editors getting together and making passionate cases for things. I love that feeling. Even when the results annoy me, I still love that feeling. And this has got to be the result of that. This is Booth Tarkington, an American novelist who 80 years ago, I wouldn't have needed to introduce him. If you'd gone into a bookstore and said, I want the new Tarkington, all the book clerks would have known the name of it and the 3 books before it. They would all have opinions on it. He's dead now. He's completely gone. No, I mean, he's not dead. He is dead. He's pushing up daisies, but his writing is also dead. He's completely lost to literature. He's not anthologized anymore. He's not taught in schools anymore. He's not remembered in any way. And here the Library of America is putting out a book of his. This has The Magnificent Ambersons. He was lucky in some of his film adaptations of his books. It has Alice Adams. And then it has In the Arena, Stories of a Political Life. And when I first got this book, I thought, well, why would you do that? Why would you do In the Arena, which is haphazard and scattershot, and as opposed to picking one of his other novels, like 17, and putting that in? And then I reread them, and I hadn't read the political sketches in forever, and I quite like them. I like them quite a bit. And then, again, that is the product of that editorial room. Somewhere in that room, somebody had to say the same thing I just said. Well, if we're going to have Booth Tarkington, there's going to be a loser anyway. Why don't we put 3 novels in there just for, thematic coherence? And somebody in that room had to say, no, I want the stories to go in there, because they haven't been reprinted in forever and no one knows about them. And it turns out that decision was right. Okay. All right. Okay, this next one is Elmore Leonard. The Library of America has been doing quite a bit of Elmore Leonard, and this one is his Westerns. This is stories plus Last Stand at Sabre River, Ombre, the great novel Valdez is Coming, and 40 Lashes Less One. And there he has a skull on the wall, some guns on the wall, and just in case, just to make sure you know that he was cool, there he is smoking. Because if you don't smoke, you're not cool, and if you do, you are. So they made sure to have that picture as opposed to 80 million other pictures. And this is a great deal of his Western stories, which we're going to be getting to, because here's a paperback of the complete Western stories. So I haven't actually, I will now, when the camera's done, I will. I haven't until now actually gone through and checked to see if this has anything that this does not. I'm curious about that, because I don't need, much as I love Elmore Leonard's Westerns, I don't need 2. And there you go. That is the Library of America. That is all the Library of America volumes that are up here. There are some scattered throughout the rest of the place. But then we move on, and I see that we're at the 18-minute mark, so we'll move on. We'll do a few more books. Maybe we could finish this now? I don't know. Next one's a box set. This is from Overlook Press, and I couldn't turn it down. This is a box set of Jeeves and Wooster novels. The Code of the Woosters, which is the greatest of the Jeeves and Wooster novels, very good Jeeves, and the inimitable Jeeves, and it has just the Overlook art on it. Some of you will have seen Sean the Book Maniac. I did a video recently in which he said that he read one Jeeves and Wooster story and thought, occasionally Sean errs. And this is one of those times. I'm sure that I'm speaking to at least a couple of dozen Wodehouse fans. and the thing I like about this is that I have Wodehouse in a million different formats, trade paperbacks and little hardcovers that are scattered everywhere, and also mass market paperbacks that are falling apart. So this had an appeal, although I'm not sure that an archival box set is quite the right thing for Jeeves and Wooster. It seems like maybe it just doesn't fit them thematically or whatever. Okay, and then we move on to Modern Library. I've said before that Modern Library had a period where they did plain beige dust jackets, no artwork of any kind, no editorial intervention of any kind, just a brown paper wrapper on their books. And I rather like those. I rather like the look of them. And I have a few that are here on this mantelpiece. The first one is the Complete Poems with Keats and Shelley. a great big thing that I have reinforced, and that doesn't make a whole lot of sense technically because I have critical editions of both their poems separately. But I like this volume, and I found it, I think, for free. So then the complete novels and selected tales of Nathaniel Hawthorne. And this, the complete novels and selected tales, that's going to remind some of you of 84 Charing Cross Road, where the Helen Hanff character says that selected is poison. Not for Hawthorne in her case, but it doesn't matter, because it's true in any anthology like this, that selected, you want it to be everything. And, of course, everything is available easily, for free, at an infinite space on your phone. The reason why this isn't complete tales is because of money. Because Modern Library didn't want to spring for a 2,000-page book. But 2,000, 3,000, 4,000-page books are nothing. If they're ebooks, you can go and get all of the complete works of Hawthorne is available in a million different formats for free. But I like this. I like having this one here. Okay. And then War and Peace, of course. This was their War and Peace. This is, I think, the Rosemary Edmonds translation. Who is this? No, this is Constance Garnett. And I just have this. I have a million War and Peace editions, but I have this one because I remember it. I like it. And then St. Augustine, the City of God, Civitas Dei. Again, I have the Penguin Classic version, but I like having this one as well. Okay, now this next one is something. It is actually a Modern Library to have, and that is Plutarch's Lives. This is the Dryden translation, what we call the Dryden translation. He oversaw a bunch of really good people and some really bad people doing a quick trot translation of Plutarch's Parallel Lives. This is a huge thing. And this is the unabridged, unedited Parallel Lives. And of all the classics of ancient Rome, of ancient Greece and Rome, this one has had the most scandalous treatment in the modern day. There are almost no other complete editions. Penguin Classics does not print this. They do not print the Parallel Lives of Plutarch in one volume. They don't do it. Everyman Library, I think, did it in 2 volumes. Usually people do. Usually in the last 100 years, that's what's happened. People go into this thing, which is a great book, a mine of enjoyable prose. They go into this book and they pick out 6 Roman lives, 6 Greek lives, 8 Roman lives, 8 Greek lives, and they get some poobah from the New Yorker to write a bloviating essay, and then they make that the volume of Plutarch. And that isn't what Plutarch wrote. This is what he wrote. Well, close enough in English. So this one is actually one that as you can tell from all the stuff that's in it, this is one that I go back to on the shelf. Then we have William Prescott's. This is his 2 great books, The History and Conquest of Mexico and The History and Conquest of Peru. Another huge thing from Modern Library. Prescott is forgotten. Unfortunately, he's really, really good, but he's forgotten. And then the next Modern Library here is not one of these beige paperback things. This is the complete novels of Jane Austen in an older version with a cute little painting, a cute little picture on the cover. Just a wand watercolor there. But I like it, and I don't think I have the beige complete novels of Jane Austen. I would probably grab it if I saw it. And then it looks like we are going to be able to get through all of this in one video. I cleaned up the area just a bit ahead of time, and that really pays off. Next one is a box set, but it's not a classic. Or maybe it is. This is The Hunger Games. The publisher came out with this really lovely new box set. The books slip right in and out. There's, I think, some additional information. I haven't really delved into this. But I think this has... will it tell me? No, it will not. But anyway, this is from Scholastic, and I don't hate Hunger Games as a series, and it came to me, so okay, all right. And then we'll do this last one. This is the last one. And this is, we go back to Library of America. This is a box set from Library of America, but it's just one book. It's just one book in a box. They do that sometimes. This is the Essays and Reviews of Edgar Allan Poe, who, in addition to being the father of American horror and the father of American sensationalist writing, was also the father of American book reviewing. And his book reviews are incredible. They're incredible. They're a lesson to the 170 years that came after him. They're a lesson. You can go back to Poe even now and learn something. Not just about the books he's writing about, but about the craft of book reviewing. It's incredible. So this one, all right, that is, I'm going to put this back there nice and gentle. There we go. There we go. Well, that was easy. Wow, that was kind of strange. All right, so that is the top level here. And now we're going to move on to the shelves themselves, which are not going to be as easy because they're double and triple stacked. They've got lateral stacking and stuff crammed in everywhere, and that's not good. That needs to change, and this library tour will help me with that. But anyway, that was the mantelpiece. Box sets, Library of America, that sort of thing. So I'm going to wrap this up for now, but we'll be back. Thank you, Book 2.